Hey, what's up guys, it's Bakes and thanks for joining me for another one of my random horror reviews. In today's episode, we actually have a newer movie, only from last year, so a pretty recent one. And I'm not going to delay any longer, I'm just going to get straight into it. Today's movie is Smile from 2022. So, a pretty successful movie from last year. I mean, like it or dislike it, it was quite successful if I remember right. A lot of people went and saw this one, and in the horror community at least, it did get spoken about a fair bit, so I feel like a lot of people would be somewhat familiar with this movie at least, but as I said, only from last year, so this was a second time watch and I'm excited to get into this one today. But as usual, before we get into my thoughts, we'll quickly go into the plot for this movie. So in this one, we have our lead, her name is Rose, and she's a nurse at this hospital, and she specializes in patients with mental disorders and that sort of mental health issue sort of area of the hospital. And she has a young patient come in, this young girl, and the girl is explaining that this entity, this being, is following her and she is going to eventually die. This movie is one of those like parasitic entity pass on to the next person sort of deal. No one else can see it, but the person that is being followed by this entity, they describe this entity as always smiling at them, and they don't know what's real and fake. And eventually this patient kills herself in front of Rose, and that's how it's passed on through these traumatic events that occur in front of these people, normally people killing themselves, and now Rose is faced against this entity and has to try and survive. So I'm going to leave the plot there. Let's quickly move into my thoughts for 2022's Smile. Now, if you watch my video of my top 10 favourite horror movies of 2022, you would know that this was actually in there. I believe it was my number 7 or 8. I'm pretty sure it was my number 7. And after picking it up on DVD, I actually left it on my shelf for a little while before watching it again, because I kind of had an expectation that I wasn't going to enjoy it as much this time around. And my reasoning behind that is because this movie isn't anything original. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. This is just very much a Americanized Japanese curse movie. Think The Ring, The Grudge, something along those lines. Just put it in an American setting, as I said, Americanize it, and that's pretty much what you got here. As I said, it's nothing original. If I had to describe this plot, it's like a mix between, as I said, The Ring and probably It Follows. So as I said, it's nothing that we haven't seen before, story-wise, concept-wise. There's a lot of, even shots in this movie, a lot of them are beat for beat from other movies, and probably movies that are better than this one. But still, after watching it again this time, I did enjoy myself. Right from the start, I found myself locked in, engaged, and I pretty much stayed that way the whole way through. Again, this was a really good watch this time around. Now, at least from my point of view, one way I would describe this movie is almost like a constant chokehold of uneasiness and fear and creepiness, because quite honestly, the first time seeing this movie in cinemas, it actually scared me a fair bit and had me quite unsettled, especially the ending. And a lot of people want to put on this macho front and this tough guy shell and just be like, yeah, no, it didn't scare me, nothing scares me anymore. And you'll hear that a lot in horror communities as well. Quite honestly, I'm pretty desensitized to horror movies now. Jump scares don't really get me or anything like that. That's not me being tough, it's just the way it is. I've been watching them for a long time. But as I said, I'm not ashamed to say that this movie did creep me out the first time I saw it, and it was a little less impactful this time around just because I knew what was coming. This is a movie with a lot of jump scares, and as I said, jump scares don't normally get me just because they're pretty predictable. And it's almost like there is so many in this movie that some are just bound to get me. But as I said, the first time I saw this movie, it genuinely scared me. Less impactful this time around. Maybe one or two jump scares still got me this time. But as I said, this movie is just constantly unsettling, and even from like one of the opening scenes in that hospital, I just feel like the colors in there are so uncanny. The camera movements, the swirling sky shots, it just puts you on edge right from the start and leaves you feeling a bit weird and unsettled in your gut. And as I said, it carries that right from the start to the end, which I commend it for. It did a very, very good job of that. So already I'm going to wrap up my thoughts of Smile. Yes, maybe a little less impactful from my first time watching it. As I said, first time in the cinemas, it was more scary and I was a little bit more on edge. But this time around, I probably appreciated the story a little bit more. Yes, I wasn't as scared or unsettled, but I was equally as entertained. I spoke about in a previous video, I can't remember which one, my experience watching Smile in cinemas. It was one of the worst cinema experiences I ever had. Not the movie, just the people in there. It was just fucking unbearable. There was actually a trigger warning in the lobby for this movie, you know, a warning sign for people who are triggered by suicide, because this movie has a lot of that in it, which I'd never seen for a movie before this one, so that was something interesting. But I'm getting off topic. This movie, yeah, I liked it probably just as much. I can't remember what I rated this in my top 10 horror movies of 2022 video, but I'm gonna give Smile a 8.5. I'm pretty sure that's roughly what I gave it in that other video, but I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I know this movie was very 50-50. There was people that did enjoy it, and then there was others that just thought it was too run-of-the-mill or boring or whatever, but I genuinely did enjoy this one. As I said, it's nothing that we haven't seen before, but at the end of the day, I was entertained, and that's all we watch movies for, you know, to switch your brain off and have a good time. And this one is a pretty enjoyable watch. It's entertaining from start to finish. I never really feel like I'm checking out at any points. It doesn't have too long of a runtime, I don't think. 110 minutes, so it clocks in a little bit, but again, give it credit for that because it doesn't feel too long. But as I said, Smile from 2022, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. So thank you for joining me again, guys, for this random horror review. If you've seen Smile, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or just let me know your favorite horror movie from last year, 2022, something like that. Feel free to get involved with whatever in the comments, guys, even if it's about another movie. I love chatting with you guys about movies, so go for it. All the support you can give, whether it's liking or subscribing, I really appreciate that also, guys. But thank you for joining me again. Hopefully you liked today's video, and I'll have another one coming your way very, very shortly. Thank you for joining me again, guys, and I'll see you soon. Peace.